This is very useful because one customer will choose a solution like ours, either if we can provide a saving or we boost the sales. There are two very simple reasons. And finally, if you are concerned, serious concern about the carbon footprint and the climate, you can also come up with an information about how that energy use cut can be translated in a reduction of the carbon footprint.
Today I brought on Stefano Melchior, founder and CEO of a Techstars company called BeChained. BeChained optimizes energy usage for industrial manufacturers with its AI software and IoT integration, unlocking 15 to 25% in cost savings. Today we talk about AI in industrial energy, what it means to optimize in real time, as well as the ROI of BeChained software and how it reduces carbon footprint. This is Earth ABC featuring Stefano Melchior. Stefano, thanks for joining me today and to be able to talk about BeChained, about the manufacturing industry and so on and so forth.
Thank you so much for your opportunity.
So BeChained, as far as I know, automates energy efficiency in some really interesting ways. And you guys say that you're the missing piece to unlocking a $700 billion market. What is that market that you guys are impacting?
So the International Energy Agency estimated for 2024 overall expenditure globally in energy efficiency around 700 billion US dollars. So it's a huge amount. The big issue related to that is that the outcome was a very, very weak improvement, only 1%. It was expected 4%. So very weak. And this come up with the question, does the current technology really works? Or they works, but not as expected. And
Right.
this is the huge market. In terms of industrial energy efficiency, it's a shorter market, around 30 billions, very specific for industrial manufacturers. But as well, it's a huge market.
Yeah, a 1% improvement is abysmal for that much of spending. You said the market expected a 4% improvement?
Yes, correct.
And what would that improvement look like in terms of the technologies involved and the outcomes for the improvements?
So energy efficiency can be achieved in different ways. You can replace an old device, old machine with something new, and then therefore you can have a huge capex, capital expenditure on the facility side that provide efficiency in terms of energy use because you are renovating, you are refurbish the machine. On the other hand, you can have a software solution or other solution that try to optimize how facility is used. So within this space, there are solutions that are hard-coded. Let me give an example. If it happened, this condition, then do this or do another thing. This is hard-coded, so it's very restricted in the opportunities or the lever to activate. Then there is the classical machine learning, where the classical machine learning usually use historical data. And finally, there are new and advanced state-of-the-art AI technology like reinforcement learning that, just to make you understand, they are adjustable for what is happening right now. Secondly, they are some kind of autonomous vehicle that react according to the, let me say, pedestrian they're stepping in, just to give an example. And this is the kind of field we are jumping in.
Mm-hmm. I like how you mentioned and broke it down into like you could improve like the hardware because some of them might be old and deprecated, and then you also have the software to manage the energy usage and then optimize it accordingly. Which side do you guys lean into?
We position BeChained as an integrator, so we actually rely on existing devices or sensor industrial IoTs within the facility. Actually, we also ask to the facility manager to install a smart meter per individual device because we need to know what is happening with that device.
Right.
But we are not selling software, hardware. We are actually an integrator, as I said before, because we are agnostic. We use industrial protocols. Industrial protocols is like the IP protocol for internet. So you use that protocol and you can talk with whatever kind of device. So our software integrates into the facility, getting information from smart meter, the energy metering, from the ERP, just to know the scheduling of the production, and finally, with the automatic control system, whether manufacturer execution system, SCADA system, to know what are the process parameter that the client using needs to receive. We crunch those data and we come up with continuously with optimal setting for those machines that minimize in the production line the overall consumption.
Mhm. I know that data integration from like these diverse like industrial systems is like a big hurdle for these like manufacturers. And I like how you touched on how like BeChained approaches this challenge. Um, what level of integration is typically required for your solution to be effective?
Very good question, because this is the real hurdle, the real also barrier for software, energy efficiency software like ours to be implemented. So it's very important that the facility manager install sensors that allowed us to receive data in real time. This is not trivial. And based on those those kind of information, we can come up with our outcome, the optimal setting on the machine. But also, we are so deeply integrated that we craft the structure that go back into the system and control how the machine can work. This means we don't disrupt the production process. Rather, we are executing the tweaks that improve the performance, whether on energy efficiency and also preventing downtime into those machines. So improving the overall equipment effectiveness.
Gotcha. And then for a manufacturing company that's a little bit more old school and they're unfamiliar with digitization and just in general, like AI-driven energy optimization, can you explain how this technology works and creates value for them?
Absolutely. So the first thing, we need to help the customer to change the mindset. So using data to come up with insight. Those insights are a bit more useful than the gut or the experience because they provide the real picture in every moment the customer can see his tablet or whatever computer everywhere. Secondly, by knowing the real-time data, you can also provide forecast of the pricing or the consumption, so you know what could be the future. Secondly, you can have an output in terms of how much energy you avoid to use in a cumulative way, and this come up or can be translated in a saving in terms of money, which is very important. This is very useful because one customer will choose a solution like ours, either if we can provide a saving or we boost the sales. There are two very simple reasons. And finally, if you are concerned, serious concern about the carbon footprint and the climate, you can also come up with an information about how that energy use cut can be translated in a reduction of the carbon footprint.
And you mentioned before how in the industry prior to BeChained, we were seeing like a 1% improvement, hoping for a 4% improvement. What is the percent improvement when it comes to BeChained?
It's much higher. Not because I want to sell you something, but because we tested in different environments, whether in water distribution, whether in a water circuit within a steel plant, whether in a paper machine, in a Whirlpool furnace for handling the oven, the microwave, sorry. We come up with a reduction of the energy use between 15 and 25. On average, let me say 20%. But this is guaranteed.
Oh, wow.
And this, let me give an example, very simple. In a steel plant, with the 1 million per month electricity bill, we help them save $300,000 per year, which is a pretty good amount, but consider that we didn't govern the whole production line. So we have much more room for savings.
Yeah, most definitely. You mentioned how your system like learns using machine learning, learns the energy consumption patterns and produces real-time setting optimization. What type of oversight does that require on the manufacturer side once they implement the BeChained software?
Well, actually, they only need to connect to our cloud. We can facilitate this connection to the local machine through a software gateway, which gather all the data and then upload those data into the cloud. And then we come up with the setting. So for this kind of infrastructure, we can only need to have a secure connection outbound from the facility internet and a connection to Google Cloud or AWS. And this is the only need or requirement for the customer to connect with our cloud. On the other hand, if the customer is not willing to expose the data outside their private cloud, we can replicate our infrastructure into the client's environment.
Gotcha. And in terms of, I guess, them not needing much oversight, it sounds like a bunch of autonomous behavior. Does BeChained involve the usage of AI agents at all?
We are working on that. We are more focusing on reinforcement learning, which is a type of AI that allowed the system to learn from real-time data, from environmental changes, from on-the-run action from the system. This is the kind of AI that is developed into the AGVs, the robots that are going around the facility, or also the autonomous vehicle. Apart from that, we also add a second layer that allowed especially the predictive maintenance to be applied. And we use the LLM system provided by Google, for instance, to understand what are the key characteristics of that specific device. Imagine an air compressor from a specific vendor, and we adapt what are the requirements of the maintenance. So we are combining more traditional, let me say, AI to the new agentic software and models.
Mm-hmm. And I guess the more old school way to do this prior to reinforcement AI, I imagine it's like rule-based automation. So what exactly does this reinforcement learning unlock for these like manufacturers versus that rule-based automation?
Well, actually, it is based not on the historical data. The solution can be plug and play. Imagine if a solution, a traditional ML is a plug and play, and you don't have past data, how can it run?
Mm.
So we can bypass this situation, especially for customers that haven't yet deployed the fully digitization of the system. So we can plug and play with the minimum configuration, with the 3 months of testing and learning. We can come up with a system that is based on rewarding and punishment. So with this logic, the system is incentivized to do better as soon as you receive rewarding. So we have to only configure some parameter, the connection, adjust the rewarding function, and then the system start learning. And the more it is used, the more is learning and perform better. So it's a continuous learning and continuous improving into the efficiency, energy efficiency, or downtime efficiency for the machine in order to deploy better saving with less emissions as well.
Gotcha. And I know that energy markets can be volatile and fluctuate a lot. So, how does BeChained solution help manufacturers navigate like these like fluctuations? Yeah, and I'll leave it at that.
Definitely is a good question. We use the so-called price arbitrage. Price arbitrage means now you are running a certain process. You can do the price arbitrage in a two way, in a reactive way, saying, okay, use that kind of energy source, or in a proactive way, you have scheduled a certain energy intensive task or a process. Why don't you move it maybe when the tariff is much more cheaper along the night or along the day, or when by forecasting what could be the price, there will be opportunity to lower energy prices, especially for companies that have the energy price index with the energy market.
Gotcha. Um, is this though a proactive or a reactive approach?
This is the latest one is a proactive approach.
And by being proactive, they can optimize their energy consumption based on pricing and then grid demands in real time.
They are more likely optimize the overall pricing because we are specializing in optimize the energy use. If you also can be suggested when to start a process, especially when the energy price is low, you can also optimize the pricing as well.
I see. So optimizing when all the systems are turned on, and then just optimizing like the timing of when to use the systems.
Correct.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes much more sense. And compared to, I guess, established players in the industrial automation and energy management, what is like BeChain's like core technological advantage, or specific focus that allows you to deliver that tailored energy efficiency outcomes for manufacturers?
So first of all, there are a lot of companies managing energy, especially with the so-called EMS, energy management system. Those companies use a very broad range of hardware and software to monitor the energy within a facility. We are specialized in a very limited niche, the energy optimization, and we can work on top. We can create a layer on top that improve the performance. Secondly, we use by adopting reinforcement learning a different approach that is first plug and play. Secondly, it is adaptable and reactable. to the action or to the process. And on top of that, we have a very, very deep integration within the facility with the SCADA, with the OPC that allowed us also to control the machine behavior and the parameter in order to minimize the energy and the overall cost for the cost of good for the manufacturing director. So we are very laser focused on our specialization, and we come up with a lot of expertise, more than 50 years expertise in energy, data science, and engineering.
So it sounds like there's a lot of personalized and custom integration into these manufacturers like systems because they could be so different. And in the world of like manufacturing, you could be in the sub-industry of like metal and steel, food, paper. So you're able to fit and plug and play into all these different ones, right?
Yes, because the starting point for us is what are the process that we are specialized on. So they are water or liquid management, air compressor system, thermal processes, grinders. And those kind of processes are spanning across different industry, whether metal and steel, paper, food, or even chemical. So this is a flip side of the coin for us in terms of approach. We have a very specialized AI agents on the processes, and that is why we can easily adapt to the specific process into the facility.
Mm-hmm. From our conversation so far, it seems like you have a very solid understanding as to how you are engaging with your manufacturing customers. So I imagine that there's a lot of traction that has taken place. What have been some significant milestones that you guys have achieved lately?
Well, actually, last year we signed 5 new agreements, coming up with more than $250,000 ARR. But the most important achievement is this year we secure 1.2 million non-dilutive funding from different agencies that allowed us to deploy new project within big customer like our customer, such as Whirlpool, for instance, in metal manufacturing, and also securing the technical team for the next 2 years. So this is really good news. On top of that, it will be helping us our future fundraising after the summer.
Mm-hmm. And I know this non-dilutive funding, 1.2 million, congratulations, by the way,
Thank you.
will help you guys apply your solutions internationally. In terms of manufacturers overseas and in the United States, what type of variance have you seen in the actual facilities in terms of the equipment?
Well, we are, especially in the US, tackling the market of food processing. And in particular, a niche which is a plant-based food processing. This is a real good opportunity for us for 2 reasons. First, it is a kind of production, especially ingredient CPG, that is growing 2 digits. Secondly, they have facilities already digitized by design, let me say, very new. So it's very easy for us to integrate into those facilities versus the traditional manufacturer with machine 15, 30 years old, where you have to do some work in order to connect and get the data out from them.
Mm-hmm. So that it isn't like the equipment is so different from one country to the next that you're unable to work with them. But there are a lot of similarities enough so that you can incorporate the solution into any different equipment.
Yes, because we can tailor the last mile in the connection, but the software gated that we use to collect the data is the same.
Yep.
And to move the data to our cloud, because we use standard industrial protocols to communicate with the machine or the automatization systems.
Gotcha. And whether a manufacturing company is in the United States or they're overseas, and either they approach you or you approach them, and there's like consideration of investing into a solution like BeChained, what are the KPIs that they should expect to improve on, and what is the typical ROI timeframe for your solution?
Well, I answer to the second question first. Based on our experience so far, let me mention the steel manufacturer. For every dollar the customer invests in us, they have a return of $4. So no brain that this is a cash return in very short time, because we are very focused on reducing the energy and therefore the operational cost. We can guarantee a return in less than 1 year, so it's very interesting for all the manufacturers, and it is very light in terms of investment. Apart from that, what we can see is in terms of KPIs, Europe is very concerned about CO2 emissions as well. So we can provide insight about it. US is less concerned, but I think in a state like California, where there is already a regulation in place, manufacturers are more aware of this need to report a reduction of the direct emissions.
Gotcha. And when you are helping these like manufacturers to improve like their energy efficiencies, that can have a lot of rippling effects in terms of the world that we see today and then also the future. As the founder of BeChained, like what is your vision for the future, and how does BeChained fit into the vehicle of achieving that future?
First of all, we are strongly integrated also with the grid. So the more renewables or battery can be used off grid, the better, because you can use the capacity of the battery to reduce the request or the supply from the grid operator. So you are lowering the overall carbon footprint. And our technology allowed to use the so-called dispatch control as a mean to reduce the carbon footprint at the time of generating savings. This is the main goal. Secondly, we believe that industry can be a number one player into the net zero target. Why? Because the overall emission from the industry is more than 30% worldwide. So if you are not moved from the savings, but you can also add a value add in the future, where maybe carbon market to compensate the direct emission will be put in place by the regulators, you have a foreign way to reduce or to provide savings, because the more you reduce the carbon footprint, the less you will pay in the future to compensate your emissions. So you have a double effect at the time.
Right. Gotcha. That's all that I have in terms of questions from my end. I just want to thank you, Stefano, for talking us through BeChained and how you guys really reduce energy usage and production processes, help manufacturers save money, save energy, boost sales, and then if they have like a net zero program,
than reducing that carbon footprint. So I think amazing stuff that you guys are doing, and much better than the prior 1% improvement in the energy market.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate this opportunity to explain and to have a broader vision of BeChained.
Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this interview, follow along on Earth EBC's LinkedIn to stay connected and never miss what's going on in climate tech. If you'd like to reach out or you're interested in coming on as a guest, feel free to connect with me, Sean Pack, on LinkedIn. We're always looking for inspiring ventures and founders in the climate space to feature on the show. Hope you enjoyed. Until next time.